everybody, welcome to another edition of PoCommunity. I'm Mike Arboy, and I'm sitting here with Gabriel Wong from Westcoast SCI. How's it going, man?
Hi there, I'm very good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Tell us about your Westcoast SCI, what you guys do.
Sure. So I started a physio company in 2010. It definitely was not considered a physio company when we first got off the ground. I basically came out of school and worked at, I called them a puppy mill clinic. So it was basically one of these places where I'd see 5-6 people an hour. I'd have multiple rooms going, multiple tables, and I'd get some guy in, chuck him on a bed, put some heat, a little buzzy machine. Hey, John, good to, how's your back going? Very good. Hey, I'll see you in about 10 minutes. Call me if you need anything. Next room. Hey, Sally, how's that neck? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I had all these people going. Really had a tough time with that. It basically kind of jaded my perception of what physio should be. So after working there for a year and a half, burnt myself out, just kind of had enough of all that. And I actually gave up physio. I'm like, I don't even want to be a physio. I studied this thing for years. I was just disenfranchised. I just felt physio was a big crock. But, you know, I didn't go to school to kind of put people on buzzy machines and just leave them in rooms all the time. Got a hospital job, basically worked admin, worked on a computer. Basically said I want nothing to do with physio anymore. But as I was working in the hospital, I worked with a lot of retired, kind of close to be retired nurses. And a lot of them would have neck pain, back pain. You know, they worked, heavy physical jobs for their entire lives, and they were kind of ending their careers and would be sore and stiff. And because I was still technically trained as a physio, I basically said, "Hey, I'll meet you outside after work at the field across the street." I brought a little mat, a couple weights, a little bands, and I basically would exercise with them. There's a bit of hands-on, of course. I do a little bit of hands-on, offer a bit of an assessment, but really it's just a workout, and a workout catered to kind of their aches and pains and what felt good for them. And next thing you know, they're like, this is the best physio I've ever had. Is this really physio? What are you doing here? I'm like, well, I guess it's kind of personal training, but it is technically physio. Like I learned a lot of this stuff at school. And then they're, well, I should probably pay you because, you're spending all this time with me after work and, you're giving me great benefit. So, one thing led to another, applied for a business license and kind of figured out how to bill and all that. And snowball. They, hey, can I tell my friends? And their friends would tell their friends. And next thing you know, I was busier doing that than I was actually working.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So it kind of was an unplanned success.
I guess so. Sure. Yeah. It just seemed to be something that was a little different, and it was kind of not really available for people in terms of what traditional physio offered. And like I said, once people kind of saw that, and again, because physio is typically covered by people's extended health benefits, they're like, well, I can kind of get this for virtually free. So like I said, it's definitely a lot more than just working out and personal training. Like I don't want to say less than what it is, but it was definitely, once people discovered what I was doing, it definitely took off for sure.
Have you always been passionate about like kind of like health, people's health?
Yeah, health, sure. I think it's just, everyone says you want, especially healthcare workers, the physio realm for sure. It's like, I want to help people. I think it goes beyond helping people just like in the generic sense. Now as a business owner, it's basically helping my staff achieve greatness, I guess I'd like to say. So sure, when I was working as a therapist and treating people, yeah, I guess I was working for people's health. But I think I've kind of, maybe as I age, kind of think more bigger picture and how can I guess, spread the word of what I'm doing, get that message to amplify through other people now, and really try to empower other people to kind of take the message to the next level.
Well, that's awesome. And like you said, when you first got into it, you went to school all these years, you got into the field and it wasn't what you expected. And it's, as a person who has used multiple like physio places, chiropractic, a few other, spinal decompression, you never know if you're going to a place that actually cares about you, or they just have a system that they just use for every single patient.
Yeah, of course.
I've had both. I've had really good experiences, quite bad experiences.
Sure.
Like how obviously you're the main guy at your at West Coast. how do you make sure that you got those kind of staff? It's certain people that are actually happy doing that coasting work, like
Sure,
just
sure,
like
sure,
kind of
sure. Of
that, like
course.
I can just tune out and
Mm-hmm.
these basically if it's being paid for by their jobs or if it's an insurance claim or
Sure.
something, they just don't
Yeah,
care as
exactly.
much.
No, it's so true.
It's almost weird that when people are paying privately and
Mm.
the people know that,
Yeah, of
they
course.
almost treat you better.
Right.
But how do you get these staff? Because I mean, it's quite a competitive field, right?
Yeah, 100%. No, I would definitely agree with that. Yeah, I mean, staffing human resources is probably one of the more challenging aspects of what I do now. I mean, it's definitely a lot in the screening, even just, when you look at, not necessarily the resumes, because I think resumes can be fake.
Yeah.
People can fake that pretty easily these days. So, it's trying to screen candidates before they even interview. And then we usually do like a 3-panel staff interview. Our clinical directors plus myself sit in on an interview. And really, we're looking for people with like a growth mindset, really. I mean, I think that's kind of a catchy term these days, but it's really somebody who's coming in that is wanting to learn and grow as a person. And it's not always necessarily being as a physio or a therapist. We hire kinesiologists and personal trainers too, but somebody who's really looking to do more with themselves and not just kind of plug and play and come in and turn their brain off and just kind of make a bunch of money and then take off. It's really trying to find people that, again, want to grow, but grow in ways that are helping other people, really. And like I said, it's not an easy task. I mean, we definitely sometimes, we get an interview, somebody's a really good interviewer and they'll answer the right questions, but, like we have that 3-month probation period, we can usually wean them out a little bit during that.
Yeah.
But I mean, we do a pretty extensive mentoring and education component of our hiring process and the onboarding. So we spend, weekly meetings with the person, goal setting, in motivational interviewing, kind of really trying to find what drives this person, and then usually we can find if they're going to click with us or not.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's easier said than done. Like I said, it's not a simple task.
Oh
It is
no,
challenging.
especially like you've how many locations do you have?
So we have 2 locations now.
Yeah.
One in Poco. But we're actually just moving into a much larger space, and then we have another place in Vancouver, basically Main and Broadway.
Oh, nice. Nice. So like, and yeah, you have to get enough people to service enough people in those areas, and it is, yeah, like it's very hard to find quality all the time. But if you have the right leader and you have like a goal in mind, and it sounds like you are definitely in the more active side of physio, where it seems like you keep people active and in repairing. I guess there's a lot of places that I think aren't kind of pushing that. It's more of like rest.
Right.
But I think it's with so many different things, whether it's injuries and stuff. It's keeping active that is so important. I think for your mind and everything, that your mind can actually almost trick you into feeling better.
Yeah, sure. I think that's really true. I mean, we are kind of a silly slogan is motion is lotion. So keeping moving keeps your body lubricated and easier to move. But that's definitely kind of one of our things that we try to differentiate ourselves with, the active approach. Because again, like you mentioned earlier, like chiro, massage, acupuncture, all that type of thing is very passive. So basically you lie on a table, the patient comes in, they just lie there and say, like, fix me. Like, I'm just going to lie here. You do whatever you got to do to get me better. And I don't want to do anything. And I think that there's definitely certain places, and I don't want to throw that kind of stuff under the bus, but, for certain situations that does work, and it works very well. But again, biased, but I definitely agree that you got to get people active. Like, if you hurt yourself, a car accident, whatever, there's only so much lying around is going to get you better. If you want to get back to playing soccer or being a dad and being able to like piggyback your kid or whatever, or you're a physical laborer and you need to be on the construction site, lying in a bed and getting massage is only going to go so far. So we really need to get you moving. And it really just, showing you how to move again, because after an injury, your body almost needs to reset. And then teaching you how to strengthen within the boundaries that you can handle, and then push that to the limit, really, and really try to get you strong. And that's kind of where we've gone with it. And our facilities has like a ginormous gym. Like when you walk into our space, and when you typically think chiro or physio is kind of like a doctor office almost, but ours looks like a gym. Basically, you walk into a big weight room, basically with squat racks and TRXs and balls and bands and all this fun stuff. I mean, we don't have a ton of stuff. We don't necessarily need to get super fancy with equipment because we can do a lot with just your body. But we are set up to kind of work with, obviously severely injured people and people with diseases and chronic conditions and stuff. But we also are set up to work with higher level athletes and get people back to really where they need to go. And then we have our treatment areas and stuff in the back. But we kind of hide that away because I think, I mean, I don't know. It depends on the person, obviously, but I feel when somebody comes in and they see like an 80-year-old woman like doing squats and you're like, holy crap, I got to get myself doing that too. You kind of motivate yourself by seeing other people that you wouldn't expect to do this kind of stuff do it. And then you're like, man, I need to get my act together and get my ass off the couch here. Well, and I think that's motivation itself.
Yeah, 100%. And like, when you were younger, before obviously you did the training for this, was there like, were you in athletics and you just either got injured yourself, saw injuries close up, and just realized how much you wanted to help people on that side? Because like, I know a lot of things, usually what happens to you or someone you care about is what kind of drives you in a certain direction, on especially if it's helping people, right?
Yeah, sure. I don't know. My story's kind of backwards, I guess. Not like, I think I've always been interested in helping people. I think that's kind of maybe one of the threads that kind of runs through my life. But I think physio chose me more so than I chose physio. It wasn't, as a kid, I, worked with physio or had this crazy injury and, I saw physio and like, oh, I got to be something like that. I think I originally got in thinking, as most people do, maybe not most, but some think I want to work with sports teams. And, I did play a bunch of sports. Like I pretty much played everything under the sun as a kid. But yeah, no, it definitely fell into me. I was definitely not some kid that had physio as my number one goal as a kid. It was definitely, in my undergraduate degree, at least I took a little of this, I took a little of that, astronomy, computer science, and like random stuff. And then it kind of just, over the course of time, I really started enjoying learning about my body and the science of, just movement, human movement. And then, one thing led to another. And I tried to get into med school. That was where I was trying to get into, but obviously I never got there. Physio was definitely a good plan to fall back on. So I went that way instead.
Keeps you healthy too. I think it's probably an industry that keeps you going, especially if you're doing more of an active way of doing it. You got to show these people how to do these things.
Exactly.
A lot of the time you do, like if it's an old grandma on a squat rack, unless she was lifting 30 years ago, she's not really used to it. So you got to kind of keep that, almost that personal trainer vibe going if you want to, I think, really succeed at it. Like, it's a whole, you don't go to like a personal trainer who's out of shape.
Yeah, exactly. You definitely got to look the part. I mean, you kind of, I forgot the saying off the top of my head, but you preach what you say or whatever. You can't say, oh yeah, you should do all this exercise, and then I'm obviously like way out of shape and don't look the part. Yeah, it helps when you look the part for sure. But I mean, like I said, I believe in what I'm talking about too. So yeah, I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't do it myself. But yeah, exactly. I try to keep myself active, and our whole staff. I mean, typically, I think physio is a profession of people that typically understand the importance of the human body and the movement and trying to stay healthy and on top of it. I'm not alone there, I'd say.
So how long ago did you, when you said you started doing like kind of these private lessons and stuff, and then realized they wanted to pay you for it? How long ago was this?
Well, so I incorporated in 2010. It's kind of, I'll backtrack a little bit, but I got married around that time. And my wife's Catholic, so we had to do these kind of premarital courses through the church and all that, which I'm myself not being Christian or Catholic myself. I was kind of what the heck is this? They're just going to preach to me the whole time. One of the topics was kind of finances and all, and kind of, planning money and stuff with the couple. And they kind of recommended a book, which was The Wealthy Barber. I forgot what the guy's name is, but I think he's on like The Dragon's Den or whatever. But Wealthy Barber is a book that they recommended. So I'm like, I guess I'll check this book out. And that book kind of opened a door for me to start reading. And before that, I read because I had to for school and all that, but I never really read outside of that. And I just went on a crazy rampage of reading. And then At that time, I was living in downtown Vancouver and commuting to Richmond. And then basically I'd read a book a week. So I'd read on the bus. This is before SkyTrain. And then I don't know what happened to me, but I just started getting into it. And then this kind of entrepreneur bug hit me. And then that kind of coincided exactly with when all this was happening, when I was kind of fed up with being a physio, and people started saying, "Hey, this is really cool. You should do more of this." And then, like I said, it just kind of one thing led to another. So in terms of when did I start? Like I said, I kind of fiddled around for maybe 3 to 6 months. And then kind of as winter started coming around, I'm like, holy, I can't be outside doing this in the park. I need to find a space. So I started first going to people's like homes, or they had like condo gyms. I kind of found spaces in the hospital. I shouldn't be saying this too loud, but I use like the gym hospital, or the hospital gym and stuff. And then, like I said, I just kind of, after that, I was like, holy, this is getting a little bit tacky. I need like a space. So then I would piggyback on people's gyms, so that I'd like find like a gym, like a personal training gym kind of a thing. Not Fitness World and stuff, because they're not too happy about having some random person come in, but like, a mom and pop kind of gym, and then just rent space. I mean, I'd basically use like broom closets. I'd have a little folding treatment table in a broom closet. So I'd be like working on somebody on a table amongst like brooms, like literally cleaning supplies in this kind of dank, dark room. And then I'd go out in the gym and do most of the session out there. But that's really where I started. I even like hired a couple other physios, and we were working out of basically broom closets. But like I said, mostly using the gym, so it wasn't that bad. And then we would outgrow the space to the point where the gyms are getting pissed off that we're bringing too many people here, that you got to get out of here. So eventually we finally opened our space, but it was like I said, it was a very organic grassroots kind of snowball. It was definitely not like, oh, I'm going to do a business plan and I'm going to spot out or find locations and kind of do the kind of the business marketing, or kind of mapping out where there's no clinics and where I should be set up. Like, it was not like that at all. It just kind of came out of a need.
That's kind of nice. When it naturally happens, you have a good thing going, and it doesn't take all that. I know, building this company, it's a hell of a lot of planning. It's so much. So when it's an organic, like, just you understand it almost in that instance, it's so refreshing, and so like just knowing that your service that you've always wanted to give, but you never really knew how to do it, it kind of naturally evolved into a business when it was just helping out people in the beginning. And I hear so much about that, like even more so in the last couple of years than you would imagine, just because a lot of people have had to like uproot their whole lives because of COVID and stuff.
Sure.
That they've gone and they're like, okay, what else am I gonna do? I got laid off here. Let's go where I tried to go to when I was younger. It wasn't paying the bills at the time, or I wasn't happy with it because I had to do it for somebody else. Let's try to do it myself. And so many people, out of passion for stuff, have created these companies that are quickly succeeding, and it's because when people can finally put what they're passionate about into what they're working and what they're doing, it almost, the ideas come way more naturally, way just, it's just it's how I think the world is supposed to be. I think people should be pushed in the directions of what they actually want to do, instead of what is the most monetary value for them. Because you can make all the money in the world if you're doing something you hate.
Yeah, it's gonna suck.
It's gonna suck, right? Like, and you said, like, you probably, when you were getting into physio, it's like you're doing the same thing all the time, just leaving people in there getting paid probably pretty good money to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
But mentally, it's not there for you.
Yeah, no, 100%.
So you even went and tried other work, like you said, you were working at the hospital.
Yeah.
Almost to get away from like almost that sour taste in your mouth. Exactly. The industry that you were like almost passionate about, but almost thought to yourself, I can't change what they do, how they do this thing, right? So good on you that just like naturally evolve into that, because when you give good services and the people can actually tell you care about it, it's not just, they're not just a serial number or a receipt number to the person. It will do great for your business. And I remember when I didn't meet you, but when I saw you at the Tri-City Chambers, I heard you talk about like how much your company's grown, how many staff you have, and that's since 2010. That's a drastic growth. So congrats on that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
PoCo was the second location.
Yeah. So we started in Vancouver. well, like I said, it started in Richmond, but like I said, really we opened our first location in Vancouver, close to VGH Hospital, by City Hall there. The PoCo location grew out of my garage, actually. So basically, we had a child, so we're like, we got to move out of downtown. We just it was tight in the condo. So when we were looking for places, I basically wanted a place with a garage so I could convert that into a little studio. So basically, I had let's call it a clinic out of my garage. And then again, it got busy enough where I had to hire somebody. So I had another physio working out of my garage, which it got tacky after a while. And again, same kind of story. I'm like, I need space. You know, I didn't want to necessarily open my own space at that point because I was scared. I was still working other jobs. Like this was earlier days, probably about 6 years ago, when I was actually. I was working again at the hospital because I was too scared to let go of that steady paycheck. I'd work in the hospital as a physio this time, working in pediatrics, which was quite fun working with little kids. But it was hard for me to leave like a salaried position with benefits and sick days and a pension and all that type of thing. But I had this West Coast thing on the side, so I basically had 2 locations running. I was working in the hospital 3 days a week. And so I didn't have a reception at this point. I was like answering phones in my coffee break, like in the storage closet, like booking appointments, and like it was nuts. It was totally insane. I don't even know how I did it. My wife can attest to it, but we probably almost broke up twice over that period of time. It was hectic. It was tough. I was working like a total maniac. But then it came to a point where I'm like, I gotta either choose. Am I gonna like work a pension job where I, get benefits and all this type of thing, or am I gonna do my own thing? And obviously, I chose to do my own thing. And since then, it just like boom. I should have done it before, but I think I was just too scared to give up the solid kind of paycheck, I guess.
So yeah, that's the biggest story of like I think any entrepreneur that really where they notice how it actually starts succeeding for them is when they have to take that leap of faith, and it's scary as all can be. I know exactly how that feels, leaving cushy union jobs that basically my parents' generation, that's all you wanted. That's what they told us we wanted, until you see how happy they are with what they did through their lives. It's like maybe when we were working, this is what we thought we wanted. But once we're done, it's like that question, like, what if? And I don't think many people of this generation want that what if anymore. I think it's so expensive. We all know how expensive just life is in general, especially where we live in the world. It's like, I feel like people making tons of money even struggle out here. Do what makes you happy. It will keep you mentally fit. And I think more and more people are starting to realize that 2 feet in the water thing, though, like just doing it.
Jumping in.
So scary.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, I mean, coming back to what you were saying, though, but, you can make millions and billions and trillions of dollars and be the most miserable person ever and then die unhappy and die with a bunch of regrets and all that. Or you can, still do pretty well. I mean, I'm not planning to necessarily not do well, but, follow your passion and still be able to enjoy life. And I mean, now as a business owner, I don't practice physio anymore. I mean, I keep my license and all that type of thing. And I do pinch hit from time to time when I need to, but being able to have my own schedule, being a bit more flexible, definitely being in charge of doing things I want to do and meeting with people I want to meet with like this. Like if I was working the hospital job, I definitely wouldn't be able to do some fun stuff like this. And even coming back to what you were saying about just kind of following your passion, I'm reading a book right now. Shoot, I keep on forgetting the authors' names, and I apologize for the authors out there, but it's called The Element, and it's all about like finding your element and following that. And I do feel like unfortunately, like schools and standardized tests and stuff just weed out the wrong people sometimes. And certain people really accelerate at those kind of standardized tests, and those are the people that get into the good schools and quote unquote get the good jobs and stuff. But there's like millions and millions of poor kids out there that are getting, and I feel like I was one of those because I was terrible at standardized tests, and I think that's one of the reasons I didn't get into med school, because I did horrendous on the NCAT, which is like that entry exam basically to get into med school. And I feel I would have been a good doctor, but like I said, I got the door shut on me because I couldn't do well on that stupid test. But like I said, all these other kids as well they may not be the most adept at math or, science type of thing, but they're great artists, or they have talent in, athletics or whatever. But because they can't pass that math test, they get shunned, and then they get, feel like rejects. And then, they might live their lives, miserable and, at some crappy job, but it really sucks. So this book is really talking about making sure that you don't leave those kids unattended, and you try to feed what their passions are, because those people can achieve greatness for not just themselves, but for the society as whole. And if we don't feed those passions and make sure that we don't discourage kids from kind of doing what they're good at and what they're really passionate about, then we're going to miss out on a lot of like geniuses out there that are floating around, that are working as janitors. I would not say that janitors are a bad thing, but working these less highly status jobs out there, but they have like a great mind, and unfortunately just society kind of shunned them.
The school system, I will never like crap on teachers because they have a hard job, but the school system, the way it's set up, is for a one way or the highway type of learning, and we're learning more and more about just like people's mentalities, mental health, anything that, like, as a person who's a practical learner that needs to literally be hands-on and not read it out of a textbook or be taught to like take notes while I speak. Like, that's not how I learn. There's so many more people like that. And like you said, like, they get one thing wrong in a subject that is not for them. It affects everything else they do in school. It's nice to see it's kind of moving in a different direction, but still it's that standard, like, this is how we do it, this is how you got to do it. That just doesn't work. It doesn't work. Our name of our company is the Fountainhead Network. It's based on a book called The Fountainhead, which is literally about an architect that wants to do things his own way and build things the way he knows it will work. But the architect school is like, no, this is how you build houses. This is how you build buildings. This is how you do this. This is how you do. But he says no, and I think more and more people are getting more creative. I mean, you can't be a creative doctor. We know that. You can't be like, or you can exactly. if you're like someone who's studying new ways of doing things, but you can't be like in a surgery and being like,
I'm gonna invent my own.
I'm gonna try this today. Let's just try this today. But there's other things that aren't life or death that you really have always had this way, and it's just like, don't branch off in any direction, just straight. This is how we do it. And it's so wrong. It is so wrong, especially like you said, it could fluster a kid in school so much where they just hate everything and they don't try anymore because of one course.
Yeah, of course.
When if you take an arts-based kid and put him into a school that maybe like concentrates on arts but dabbles in the other stuff to kind of get you see how much they flourish. You hear about like all those artists out of like musician stuff that went to those kinds of schools that like they weren't told it's out of the realm of being successful in it. Right. You go to high school now, you go to a counselor and you'd be like, I want to be a professional musician. Right? You're like, okay, well, yeah, that's great and all, but this is where you should put your money. This is where you should go. It's like, okay, well, being a musician doesn't mean take business courses. Yeah, of course. So like, it's that support. I think the past generation have been so scared of just like non-success. And I think trying to tell 17-year-old kids in grade 12, whatever they are, you have to know, like, you have to have an idea of what you want to be. I'm in my 30s. I don't know what I want to be yet. Yeah, of course. And it's like, how do you know? How do you teach these kids this? It's absolutely impossible to know exactly what you want to do. I have so many friends that dedicated all their high school and college to one thing, because in high school they were like, oh, I got to figure out what I want to be with my life. Go to college for 4 years, get out, hate it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's not practical. I think the 20s are when in the past where 20s were where you're supposed to start everything. I think 20s is where you're supposed to venture off and try things and like try a new business. Doesn't work out, you have your 30s to go work for that corporation. And I think we're finally getting there. It's really refreshing. I interview a lot of young people that have done that, and I'm kind of one of them. I went to school for music production, pretty fresh out of high school, maybe a year or two after. So like sound engineer, all this stuff. Got out of that course, loved it, but then it's like I'm 19 years old and I have no idea how to monetize from this, and it's a very cutthroat industry.
Oh, sure.
So what is the generation of parents be like? Okay, just do that with your fun time, but get a real job. 10 years pass, and you've been working that real job, and that's been pushed.
Yeah, of course.
To complete that, you don't even have time for it.
Yeah, of course.
So I do like, I like to see people finally kind of doing what they're meant to do. The amount of, like, I read studies about, like, mostly from the States, but highly successful entrepreneurs, how a big percentage of them are high school dropouts. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, totally. No,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like I said, it's that traditional training. Like, you're not going to get a high school dropout as a doctor, but there's a lot of things out there that are can be self-taught. It's not even schools anymore. You don't need it. Like, I'll say it right now, a music producer. They make good music. They can be 12 years old. Yeah, they're making better music than that guy who's went to the most prestige schools around the world. They don't care if you have a diploma on your wall.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely think, social media and YouTube and I was going to say Spotify, but it's not Spotify. It's that website that I forgot what it's called. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But I mean, like I said, the internet has basically allowed people to do that kind of thing. Exactly. They don't have to do the traditional route of schooling and formal education type of thing. They could dabble on their own and just put stuff out there on the internet. And like I said, if they have the passion for it, somebody's going to stumble across it. And then, like I said, it could catch fire and become viral, just like, there's so many different things out there that's done that. I don't even know if I can give you any examples, but it's just finding a way to exactly. I think what people get scared of is trying to monetize it, because they're like, oh, if I need to have a solid idea before I do this, because if I don't have an idea, then it's not going to work. So, like you said, they get some job at the union or whatever, because again, it's taking that leap of faith. And then, like I said, that leap of faith was for me, that was a tough thing.
Well, so you said you were young, wife, kid.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
kid and all that stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Same exact boat. I have a toddler. He was a year when we decided to do this. I think a year old, and it was like, mentally, I was drained from the work, raising a kid. Yeah. I was already just mentally screwed. Yeah, I was working 10-hour shifts overnight, and he woke up all through the night. So it's like, it was not good for me mentally. And it was just like, okay, this is going to be stressful too. Opening up a business is another level of stress. But being able to be with the kid, kind of control my own narrative, as stressful as, especially getting the keys to this freaking business a month before the pandemic. Yeah. It's a different kind of stress that at least you have your own control. I would not want to go back to those jobs that feel so structured and safe, because as we all found out in the last 2 years, it doesn't feel like any jobs are structured and safe. Yeah. Even if you're union, anything, it's scary. And when you don't have that control, you can't be like, okay, I work at this cushy union job. Oh, they lost pretty much all their work because of COVID. They're going to lay me off. You can't really be like, okay, I'm going to work harder and they won't lay me off anymore. Yeah, right. If you're an entrepreneur and shit's not working for you, you got to put your feet on the gas and either go harder than you ever before, or change in a different direction and try something completely different. Yeah, of course. There's that security blanket is yourself. Yeah, true. So like, you working out of, like, you did everything you could to make this work by working out of closets, working out of your house, to a point where it's grown because you knew you had something good. But that one, like you said, that it had to be that I'm done with this secondary, like, just paying the bills life, that I'm doing this because of that, to a point where it's like, the only way this is going to work is just going right in there. Yeah. And wife and kid, you said, it's the same story. Like, I want to say we almost broke up. Yeah. But it definitely, this is stress of uncertainty and having a kid, and just the stress of not having enough time for anything, it seems like. No, for sure. I mean, now you probably have a different kind of time, if that makes sense. Like, you might be working 24 hours, like on the clock. If something's going on in your business, you're not there. You're always kind of, but you can go and do what you have to do with your family and kind of control that narrative too. Is you can run a business and be a family man. I think it's so apparent that it was, and we're kind of still in that life. You know how daycare is and everything. We've gotten away from traditional life as we know it, family values around the world. Like it seems like North America has really gone in on just work for your family, but you don't see your family.
Yeah, right.
When you go back into older times, it was like family first, and even like places in part of Europe still has that. Like they'll have a 2-hour lunch break to go home and eat with your family.
Yeah.
Family values, I think, are finally kind of coming back
full circle.
Full circle, which is, I think, it's as good for humanity. Where it's good for business, because before it was businesses all monetization. You money, work with another business. You don't care if it's a good relationship between the two, as long as you're both making money or one makes money. As soon as you're not making money, you cut that person out. It doesn't care how much you care about the person. It's finally now where I think where people are like, they care about how the person is personable with them, or a company is personal with them, their relationships. They're only going to be working with people that they trust and care about, especially now.
Yeah.
So like, I just, I could go on about just how times are changing, and I just see it as a new era of people doing what they need to do with their lives. And sometimes it's like I talked to a few people that have said this. It's like COVID was the shittiest blessing you could possibly imagine.
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree with that 100%. I was going to circle back to a couple points that you made, but it's so true. I think when I did make that split of, am I going to do West Coast or am I going to do the hospital thing, it was definitely around a time where I had my second child. I always thought having a first child was a lot of work. Having a second was just like, it's just like, I don't even know how to handle this anymore. I was short with my wife. I was short with my kids, just because I was working all the time. And then I think that's where my wife is like, you got to either choose something here. You're going to choose your family. You're going to choose your work, because like I said, this is not working. So it definitely came to a point in my life where I was just like, I gotta go with it and let my wings kind of soar here. But like also what you mentioned about is having kind of, as an entrepreneur, I mean, you're right. You put crazy hours. Like there's periods of time where you're going to be working 24 hours a day, basically. But then there's periods of times where you don't. And I mean, I'm trying to have more of those periods of time where I'm not working 24/7. But like you said, you're always in the back of your mind. It's one of those things when you work like a standard job, 9 to 5 kind of thing. You finish work, you unplug, and you're basically doing your own thing. But as an entrepreneur, you're always kind of thinking, you want to make sure there's no fires happening. You got to kind of check your emails, and you got to have your little Slack going, all this type of stuff. But I mean, I definitely have control of my schedule, and like I mentioned that earlier. But I mean, that is almost worth than just that, to be able to kind of adjust my hours, to be able to, like, I'm the driver for my family. Like I drop my kids off. I typically pick them up from school. I can like coach my son's basketball team. I volunteer at lunch to like do lunchtime supervision, so I can like see them in school and interacting with like their friends at school. And that's a whole new world to see how kids interact when they're in class and in school. Like that's a really cool opportunity that I think most people don't get to see.
Yeah.
So I mean, like I said, there's trade-offs. Like I said, I might not make as much money if I worked some big corporate kind of desk job or whatever. But like I said, what's important to you? Do you need to make millions and trillions of dollars, or can you still do a decent living and then have flexibility in your schedule and maybe work 20 hours a week and be able to hang out with your kids? Or I enjoy mountain biking and stuff like that, so I go for a little mountain bike in the middle of the day and do that kind of thing and have some me time once in a while. Whereas before I had zero me time. And I think just choosing the life as an entrepreneur, yeah, sure, it's going to be stressful. And sometimes it does suck as you're working your tail off and not really seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. But when you do kind of reach a point, and again, it's I don't think you're never going to reach that pinnacle where you can just sit back and relax. But when you do find kind of a moment to exhale, it's it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's a totally different feeling than working for somebody. It is nice to be able to go home and just turn yourself off.
Yeah.
Not care about what happened at work or what is going to happen at work. There's always going to be envy, I think, there. But everything else, I'm not envious of anything. Having to do everything so structured to a point where it's boring. And I'll say it a million times. These companies that make these jobs this way, you have to do it this way. It's boring, and it's like, oh, we pay our people well, that'll be fine. When people are bored at their work and when they hate their jobs, which a lot of people do, it sucks. But there's a lot of people that despise going to work every day. How many of your staff despise going to work every day? Who the hell has good working people? When you don't like doing something, are you doing the best job at it?
Yeah.
No. So this is that whole going back to that do what you're good at thing. Let's go far back to as kids in school. Do what you're good at, because if you're good at that and you continue doing good at that, you like doing it, you're going to get 100% out of that person.
Yeah,
those companies hiring them, or those people starting their own companies doing 100%. It's so many different industries. You don't need to it's not quantity, it's quality. So like they talk so many different industries. You could have 5 staff if they're all like amazing at what they do. If you have 25 staff that all of them could care less about what they're doing, you're gonna get a way better product out of the 5 people. So like it goes that far back. It goes back into schooling. I honestly think schooling is the biggest factor. Is just like, gotta let people do what they're good at.
Yeah, for sure.
And if someone's this might be completely opposite direction, but I'm not saying like crush kids' dreams here, but if a kid is like not that good at something and he's really good somewhere else and he likes both equally, really push them in that direction of like, it will help it out. Like, instead of it's this equality. It's like, no, if you get somebody to almost, if it like sparks something early in their life in a direction where it's like, it's fun for them, they're learning. When learning is fun for a kid, that will stick in their head until probably their dying day.
Yeah, sure.
You tell me about parallelograms today?
Yeah, right.
You could tell me about, like, you cannot ask me any of the stuff that I didn't enjoy school if I remember it. I don't.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you don't
care.
So
let people do what they're passionate about, what they like to do. Try to find that out early. I just ramble on, but I just get worked up.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, that kind of just makes me think about my staffing, and you were talking about that earlier. But we definitely motivational interview our staff every 6 months and goal set, and really try to peel the onion back to find out what is driving them and feed that. Because like you said, if you make your employees do stuff, they're just not going to want it. One, they're going to do a crappy job at it, and they're not going to want to do it. And then they're end up quitting because they don't like the job anymore. But like I said, if you can find what drives and what their passion is and feed that, then they're going to be the best employee you can ever find. And they will put in extra hours and extra time to do stuff. I mean, for example, we have, there's one guy who's like a super passionate runner. And then we just said, well, what do you want to do with it? And then he started like a running club, and then now he has a running club, and we just feed him what he needs to make that happen. And, do you need help with like marketing it or finding clients or advertising it, or like, closing the clinic so you can have the space to like do little workshops and stuff for these guys, or, like I said, just that. Or one guy likes like teachings, or like, well, why don't you lead our in-service, like our education, and like find new articles to like talk about and share that with everybody. And like I said, it's if you can feed that kind of passion for people, then, they'll do the work for free. I was not to say that I would ever make them do the work for free. I always would compensate them well to do it, but they're passionate about it. So like I said, you couldn't pay somebody enough money to like find that passion and do that.
That's not the first thing popping in their head. Let's just put it that way. You go to a job interview, that it's just another job. The first thing on that person's mind in the interview is how much does this place play?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so if you're doing something you love, that's literally the last thing you think about. If you're like, okay, oh yeah, I guess I should pay. Like you said, you kind of just stumble like, I think we should pay you now. And it's just like, oh yeah, I guess you should. And and that's just. It's huge. That's, every industry should do stuff like that. Like you said, so he likes running club. It could be as little every place. Like it could be a tattoo parlor. If a person is really good at anime style tattoos,
sure.
Don't tell the guy who's really good at realism, like, oh, you got to get as good over here too. You got to keep going. You got to be versatile in every. It's like, that's great. That'd be great if he wants to do that on his spare time.
Yeah, sure.
But why not? When somebody comes in and wants that kind of tattoo, push them into that direction. So now he's a specialty artist, where it's just like anybody that wants this kind of tattoo is going to always want to come to him. He's going to have a list of people lining up instead of being like, let's just fill it in with any tattoo artist we want in here. It's just like, okay, what time? You want in on Monday? Okay, well, you know what? This person's not good at that style of tattoo, but we're going to get you in then. And they won't tell you that.
Yeah, of course.
But that's, I think, as a physio clinic, when somebody comes in with an injury and they're like, okay, this is my injury. Okay, what do you like to do as the person who's injured? Do you like high activity running?
Yeah, sure.
Do you like more just like light workouts? Do you like laying on that bench? Do you like
exactly.
You have different people that are going to specialize in different things that it doesn't just is like one way or the highway.
Yeah, for sure. That very much so. That's 100% how we'd like to do it too. We ask pretty specific questions on, we call it an intake form, but people have to fill out a bit of information about themselves and what they're interested in. We definitely try to match them up with a like-minded therapist as well, because you'll just build a way better relationship, and usually right away, versus kind of like you don't have to feel them out as much, because you'll have things that you instantly click on and you can relate with. And like I said, the healing happens so much faster when you trust the person you're working with, rather than, like you said, just getting some cookie cutter box kind of thing. Oh, well, you're coming on Monday, then here, just take whoever's available on Monday. It just, you're just basically doing that person a disservice, because they're going to come in and say, oh, well, physio sucks or you suck. And then you're going to get a bad review. And the next thing you know, your business is failing. Yeah. So taking that extra time to talk to the person over the phone and say, hey, what are you actually interested in? Or, if you were to work with somebody, who do you kind of want, who you like to work with, kind of thing, and trying to match them up right from the get-go, so then they have an amazing experience right off the top. It does wonders. Yeah, well, I mean, it's just like, if you're booking, it's like booking for a walk-in. It doesn't make sense. That's what a lot of industries are like. It's like you book something, you take the time to book because you have to figure something out. You're interested in something, whatever you're booking something for. And then you book for no freaking reason, because you walk into the place and they're like, okay, whoever's available right now, we're just going to give you that person. Right. And we're not going to do any history. It's I think things were done for almost simplicity, like where it's like, okay, we want it to be simple in all these industries, so we're just going to go with this. Yeah. But in reality, it's made it a lot harder on them, because they're working on people longer. It's not working out for those people. They're getting bad reviews on. I don't think businesses ever thought that, like mom and pop businesses that have been around 50 years with Google reviews now. Yeah. You have to change how you do things. Like you cannot be that cookie cutter. That's just like everybody else. That like if you're a chiropractor, that your person comes in, pays a ridiculous amount of money for 2 minutes buy, and you feel like you're ripped off. Yeah. It's not go find another chiropractor anymore. It's okay, how am I going to throw these people under the bus? And that's a business that's not good. Yeah. So people need to put their customers first. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, the consumer has so much power now with the Google reviews, for sure. Because like I said, even a few bad reviews, and like I said, you're in trouble. Especially in industries that have competition. If you are a physio clinic, I know for a fact you have a lot of competition, right? Sure. So it's like you have to be good at what you do, because if you get that one bad review and all these like businesses like, oh, they're rated 4.6, 4.6, 4.6. Yeah. And then that one bad review put you at 4.5. People are just, it's image is everything. And they see that star and they see, and it's bad. So it's just like,
I think that's where people are like, why young entrepreneurs and young business owners are like, okay, that's a huge factor. It's like, we have to give good service. That's number one.
Yeah.
The people that have really died, there's been plenty of ones through COVID that have died that have been just sad, because it almost seems like that those industries were attacked and it wasn't nothing that they did wrong. But there is so many that just relied on just that getting by kind of business. That as soon as COVID hit and everybody's so strict about where they're spending their money, they just it's because they didn't put their customers first. They thought they were, but they were doing the bare minimum. So like that's why I keep talking about that. Is it goes right to the beginning of your story. It's just bare minimum pissed you off. Yeah, you work in an industry and you're like, I hate this. This is bare minimum. It's that literally you feel like you go to school for something. And you spend all this money on schooling, and you feel like you ripped yourself off and your customer. That's not a good feeling.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's interesting how you meant about COVID kind of weaned out certain business. I never really thought about it like that, but I think that's so true, that the unfortunate situation of COVID weeded out a lot of the businesses that were doing a crappy job out there. And I mean, and I guess the ones that survived are definitely the ones that pivoted and made the most out of what's like lemons out of lemonade or whatever the thing is. Like, it was definitely the people that were like, you know what, I got to either step up my game or pivot to something that is completely different to what I did. And I think the people that are left standing are probably those kind of businesses, which is, I never really thought about that way, but that's kind of an interesting thought.
Yeah, it's the people that pivoted and are willing to change. I think the restaurants the mom and pop businesses that relied on foot traffic and were like, I'm not paying DoorDash and skip the dishes for this stuff. There's no way. They think technology's out to get them. And yeah, those services, I've talked to restaurant owners, they suck because you have to pay all these fees and blah, blah, blah. In the end, if you're charging the same amount on DoorDash as you do as a walk-in or a pickup that phones your restaurant, they're paying more on DoorDash and stuff. But the restaurants that were like, no, I don't want to do that, don't realize if they just take the time. This is like my information to all restaurant owners here. If you hate the fact that you're paying other drivers and a corporation all this money, tell your drivers that work for you to sign up as DoorDash drivers. Right. Who can report to those pickups first, so you're getting the whole thing for your business. Right. Just hit it that I'm taking this order. Person works for you. He's already there. That's your delivery driver. You're getting all the profits. Right. And there's so many stubborn people out there that just blame the new technology and the mom and pop businesses that didn't have either their kids that have grown up and taken the business from them, or they have hired help. They were so stubborn, and those are the ones that die. It suck because usually that food is amazing. Yeah, for sure. But they can't change. They can't change, and that's like we, as a business, we had to change a month after getting the keys as like, okay, we have 7,000 square feet, but people are being told to stay home. How the hell do we market this place? Online. Online, just go heavy. Money's not there when it comes to that kind of promotion. But you got to stay afloat somehow, and you got to like
plant the seed.
And I think a lot of people with COVID were either like, or they just were like, and there's not many floaters. Floaters are gone.
Of course. Yeah, they're
completely gone.
Weeded out.
And so after this all, those people have been weeded out, and you got the people that gave up, the weeded out ones, and you have just all you have left.
It's the go-getters kind of.
The go-getters. So that's where I say the shitty blessing. It's bad. I do not wish any of that stuff on people. This is going out of business. We're still a new business. You never know how much of a success you're going to be until you're that success.
Yeah, of course.
But it's just, you can't, you can't as an entrepreneur give up. Because if you've put your 2 feet in the water already, this is the time you got to go full force. So I don't know, like for your locations, how it was with COVID. Were you doing as many bookings? Were you guys have to slow down drastically? Like what happened?
COVID was tough. I mean, I circle back to the growth mindset thing. I think that's huge, especially during the pandemic. But like I said, if you kind of have that finite mindset where you're like, oh, geez, it's just gonna get worse and worse. Like this is what this is where I'm at. I can't do anything different. again, I think those are people that died, unfortunately. But kind of realizing, okay, well, if this isn't working, what can I do next? Or I screwed this thing up. What can I take away from this? And then what do I need to do next time I try it again? I think that having that kind of mindset, easier said than done, is really important.
Yeah.
Just to be a survivor in this entrepreneurial world. But anyways, coming back to COVID, it was definitely the shutdown. I think, like I said, it took us by surprise. It was, I think it was a Monday, March 15th, even. I remember the day. I got an email from our College of Physiotherapists regulators saying, like, you guys need to shut down. I'm like, holy shit. Like, basically I got it like that afternoon. So I had an emergency meeting with my clinical directors, and we're like, holy crap. Like, I think my staff was getting freaked out because all the news was coming out. And then we basically made a call at 5 p.m. to close the clinic, like, for the next day. So we had to, like, make a million phone calls of all the clients that were booked in and inform all the staff. And it was pretty nuts. And I said, I know I wasn't alone in that. During the shutdown, though, our pivot was to go online, to make it virtual. So we tried the virtual physio route. Some people love that, and the people that love it. But I would only say about 10% are still doing it. I mean, it's convenient as hell because we are very active based. We can do a lot of stuff over the internet and just, like, show you and correct you over a monitor, basically. But most people still like to come in and to use our equipment and stuff, which is fair. But it does help. Like I said, working people, they can basically unplug for half an hour, do a session, and then plug back into work. If you're like, you got little young kids and stuff, it helps a ton, so that you don't have to either figure out childcare or drag your kid down to your sessions with you. If you're kind of feeling unwell, you can still do your session typically. So it definitely cuts down on a lot of that stuff. So having, like, a virtual option has been pretty awesome. And, for snow days and stuff like that too. Like, oh geez, it's snowing, I don't want to drive. Well, let's just throw it online. I think kind of that is something what we did during COVID. Another thing was basically just kind of, because we were shut down, we were able to basically scrutinize everything we did. Customer service was a big piece of that. Like, what is the experience from a customer's point of view, from when they're looking around on their website to, like, calling in to book an appointment? What are we doing from that initial point of contact through the whole process of coming through and the assessment and treatment and discharge and all that stuff? So we basically reworked, found kinks in the armor in those kind of regards. Upped up our digital media, so all the SEO stuff that I never really thought about before COVID. Like, we had a website and all that stuff, but I never really thought much of it. Spent quite a bit of time and energy, brought in, like, we call her our marketing or digital media specialist, who now manages all that, and she's a graphic designer and stuff. She's fantastic to stay on top of that. But yeah, it's funny how you kind of go about your day and do your things until a pandemic hits, and then you kind of have the time to maybe sit back and kind of relook at what you've been doing for a number of years or months, and then say, holy shit, that wasn't working, or that was a crap ass website that we used to have, or that kind of stuff. So really kind of putting into time and energy into that, and that's basically what we did. We spent a lot of time in education too, because when we were closed, we basically just did we did educational in-service, and basically each team member took a topic of their passion and taught it to everybody, so then we can all upskill, which was pretty cool. And then during that time also, I had the therapist again. We do this motivational interviewing stuff, but really try to find their passion. And then once we had their passion, okay, well, here, I'm going to give you an allocated amount of money and time to work on that project, whatever the heck it is. It could be anything under the sun, basically. And here's some money and here's some time to do it.
Yeah.
And then get that running club off the ground, or get that, like, postnatal kind of exercise class up and running and stuff like that. So, or like, here, paint the mural in our space or whatever kind of thing. It was really cool. Like I said, people got to do cool stuff that they've always really been excited about, and made it reality. And we used that time to get all that stuff off the ground. So yeah, it was insane. Like I said, I think COVID definitely had its blessing in disguise, and being able to spend time with my family and stuff like that, working from home and all that, was again another blessing in disguise. Spending time with my wife a little bit more and stuff, that was nice. But there was definitely some sleepless nights though mixed in there. I won't lie about that.
Yeah, you said though, like 10% of the people that maybe are coming back still doing the virtual thing. So like, if you weren't doing the virtual thing before, it's probably something you'll keep around, just because even if COVID like actually settles and goes back to normal or whatever, there's still going to be that small percentage of people that want to do that. Now that you offer that, you might not have thought of that until COVID hit.
Yeah,
so it's just, it creates a whole new venture that you were forced to doing, but in reality, it's no real extra cost to you to have to do it. It actually is quite a, it's easier. In reality, there's so many businesses that can be from home now because they can just do it over Zoom or wherever they're using. But it's working out of home it's pretty tough too at the same time, like separating that whole.
Yeah,
that's a whole nother
that's a whole ball game.
But yeah, man, I like talking to you. It's definitely an industry that Aaron actually tells me like I should get into like either massage therapy or something. Like, wait, I should have. I have stupidly big hands, and it's like it's something that like I am interested in because I have a lot of pain. So it's like, yeah, I like talking to you. I like your story. If you ever want to come back on, talk again, I'd totally be down. But we try to keep this one under an hour.
Yeah, I appreciate
it,
Mike.
Idea what we're
I appreciate Mike. I had a blast too. Yeah. It's tons of fun talking to you too.
Yeah, so tell me where you can find like your website,
our handles, all that stuff,
social medias, everything, and I'll put a graphic at the end.
Yeah, please and thank you. So we're Westcoast SCI, Westcoast SCI. We're obviously we got YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook, our website westcoastsci.com. Our location is Port Coquitlam in Vancouver. I mean, we got tons of videos and like information and stuff on YouTube. We focus quite a bit on YouTube, like with exercise videos and just kind of how-tos and information about illnesses and diseases and injuries and all that stuff. So if you do need physio stuff and you're kind of not sure if that's what you want to do or you want to learn a bit more about us, that's probably the best place, either that or our website.
Awesome, man. And obviously we're based out of PoCo, so it definitely you put your name out there for people out here too. I mean, it's a pretty tight knit community. You say you live out this way too.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
it's definitely Tri-Cities. There's a reason why they kind of consider themselves one, even though they're three different cities. It's a really tight knit community, and people like kind of supporting businesses in their own community. So yeah, it's wicked that you have the two locations. I like promoting locals.
Yeah,
so,
I appreciate that.
Vancouver's great, and all. We all know Vancouver's great. But
it's a short drive.
It's one of the reasons we put this space in PoCo is Vancouver has everything.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really nice to bring more to the community and kind of just stay close to home. And,
of course.
Build up what in reality people don't need to go to Vancouver for. So it's great. But yeah, man, thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
If you ever want to come on again, we'll talk again.
Yeah,
if you ever want to talk more about physiotherapy, like I think it's a vast industry that like it's good that breaking the kind of mold and breaking a wall down of how it's done traditionally because there's so much opportunity.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, man, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you all for watching. This has been another edition of PoCommunity. I'm Mike Arboit. He is Gabriel Wong from Westcoast CSI.
SCI.
SCI, wow.
Okay, Westcoast SCI.
Now it's a totally different industry we're going here.
All good.
I totally just,
all good.
Might be gaining a little dyslexia.
Yeah, all good. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Have a good one.
See ya.